Right, I'm just making a quick video about defence spending. It's been in the news, you know, this sort of threat of Russian aggression and things like that, and everybody going, we need to spend more money on defence and the poor state of our armed forces. So I want to make a quick video, a few things that I know about defence that might shock you. So yeah, the first thing, you know, I want to talk about is the Ministry of Defence wasting money. Now, a friend of mine used to work for the Ministry of Defence, and you know, he was an MOD civil servant sort of thing, and I know he was telling me about notebooks, and he said, you know, in his sort of department, everybody was issued with these MOD specification notebooks. And that their MOD spec, you know, like the lines had to be so many millimetres apart, the margin had to be so many millimetres apart, and they bought them from, you know, some approved supplier, and these notebooks were £6 each. That's what they were paying for these notebooks. And at the time, you know, he was like, well, hang on, we could go to Smith's and we could get a notebook for £1, and they were like, oh no, we can't do that. You know, it's MOD spec. So that's what I'm saying, you know, they end up buying things. You know, we're not on about planes and tanks and things like that. We're on about things, you know, they're just paying ridiculous amounts of money for things that they could buy a lot cheaper. Bear in mind, I'm available, you know, if they want to consult me. So yeah, so you know, get in touch. You know, the next thing I want to talk about is, you know, like back to the civil servants. You know, like the army. So if the army has got, they reckon the army's got 70,000 soldiers. So we've got 70,000 soldiers, right? But we've got 60,000 Whitehall civil servants. So we've nearly got one civil servant for every person that's in the army. That is absolutely nuts, isn't it? You know, why do we need? We've got 60,000 civil servants worrying about how many mil these lines are on these notepads and how far the margins are and all that sort of thing. So again, you know, like personnel, you'd rather have fighting units than pen pushing civil servants, wouldn't you? So you go straight away. You go, right, we don't need 60,000 civil servants. I think a lot of this will be purchasing equipment. You know, like so what I'm saying is that the MOD tend to buy things off BAE systems, which are mega expensive, and you know, they don't need that. They could have probably have 20,000, 10,000 civil servants going, you know, we'll buy the equipment from, you know, cheaper suppliers, whoever can supply it cheaper. It's the same with the Navy, actually, the same sort of thing with the Navy. So the Navy has got 34 admirals and vice admirals. We've got 34 admirals and vice admirals, right? And we've only got 36 proper size ships, right? So I'm not counting. I'm not counting these tight river class, tidal, whatever they are, you know, tidal small little ships. I'm on about proper size ships, you know, aircraft carriers, amphibious ships, frigates, destroyers. We've got 36 proper size ships. We've got 34 vice admirals and admirals. I mean, that's absolutely mental, isn't it? You know, it's like, again, you know, how many admirals and vice admirals do we need? We probably need 10. You know, that's like 24 we can get rid of, save the cash. The next thing I want to talk about is this, you know, this thing in Yemen where they're bombing the Houthi rebels in Yemen, and they're flying from Cyprus to bomb these Houthi rebels. And you know, people are saying, oh well, you know, the Navy hasn't got the missiles on the ships to attack the Houthi rebels, and you know, all the money it's costing to fly from Yemen. But see, what I say is, we're attacking these Houthi rebels with Eurofighter Typhoons, right? We don't need to be doing that. We could probably attack them with a Lancaster bomber, because they've got no aircraft. They haven't got an air force, so they couldn't shoot. They couldn't shoot anything down. I mean, I guess they might have some short range, land to air missiles, but they've got no air force. So why are we using like Eurofighter Typhoons when in reality we could be using like a Vulcan bomber or something? This is what I'm saying, that the RAF takes equipment out of service too early, I think. Like the Americans, bearing in mind the Americans are still flying B-52 bombers, which were brought into service in 1952. So then B-52 bombers are 71 years old, and the Americans are still using them. So why couldn't we have been using Vulcan bombers? And we could go, oh yeah, we've got to bomb some Houthis. Yeah, we'll instead of sending whatever four Typhoons and it costing an arm and a leg, we could just send one Vulcan. That could have had £24,000 bombs, and it would have annihilated a missile installation or a radar installation. So that's what I think. I think that is what's wrong with sort of the RAF and the Army and the Navy, is they're just obsessed with mothballing, selling off equipment. Equipment's 20 years old, we'll get rid of it. So what? Just carry on, use it. Just carry on using it. Again, I wanted to talk about the Eurofighter Typhoons. So these Eurofighter Typhoons are £124 million each, right? And we've only got 137. But I think we've got 137, but I think in airworthy condition flyable, we've probably got about 100. So we've got 100 aircraft, that's all we've got. If you were in a war, a war of attrition, how long would they last? Probably by, I don't know, 6 weeks, you'd probably lost a lot. That'd be the end of it. You wouldn't have enough aircraft to, carry on a war for long, because you'd probably find that you'd lose, whatever, 2 or 3 a day. That'd be that, wouldn't it? So these Eurofighter Typhoons, 134 million. They could have bought Saab Gripens. They're £85 million each. And you'd have got 1.5 Gripens for one Typhoon. So instead of having 137, we could have nearly 200, which would have been a better bet, wouldn't it? But like I said, the government's in hock to BAE Systems, where it's like, oh no, everything has to go to BAE Systems to keep the share price up. That's what's going on. So what I wanted to talk about as well is when they buy off-the-shelf equipment, they tend to cock that up as well. So I'm going back a while now, but Harriers, they bought from the Americans AV-8B Harriers, right? They got them to the UK, and then what they decided to do, the American aircraft that had an American wiring harness, and they decided to change that, take that out for just a commercial wiring harness, because that's what we do. So it cost them millions of pounds to rewire these Harriers, and again, wasted a load of money. I don't know if you can remember, but they did the same trick. They bought some Chinooks. I don't know how many they bought. I don't know if they bought like 4 or something like that from the Americans, and they did exactly the same trick. They got them, and then they thought, oh, the avionics are different. Well, we need to change all that. So they ripped out the avionics, and then they couldn't do anything with them. But they were like, oh, it's too complicated, and they just sat in a hangar for like 4 years, and they didn't do anything with them because they decided to change the avionics. Now, why can't they just use off-the-shelf equipment? Go, we're not messing around. We're not messing around with changing wiring harnesses or avionics. Just use off-the-shelf equipment and save a load of money. Get rid of all these civil servants and have decent equipment that you could buy off anybody. I mean, like at the minute, the Polish, are buying a lot of equipment from the South Koreans. So they're buying South Korean aircraft and they're buying South Korean tanks because they're cheap and they're good. Because they think they're going to be invaded by Russia. So they think, right, you know, we can probably get 2 tanks, 3 tanks for the price of 1 tank if we buy them from South Korea. You know, they're probably coming straight from the Kia factory or the Hyundai factory. You know, and that's the thing, isn't it? With aircraft and tanks, you're better off having numbers. You're better off having you know, 200 tanks that are so-so than having 50 tanks that are brilliant, because they'll still get blown up, you'll still lose them. You know, it's the number of equipment. It's like aircraft. The way we're going with these aircraft, as I say, we've got 137 Typhoons, and I think we've got about 14 F-35s. That's all we've got. You know, what I'm saying is, in 20 years' time, we'll probably have 60 aircraft. That'll be it. That's all we'll have. Whereas, you know, if you had, you know, 200 or 300 aircraft, that's every year you're training more pilots. You know, when the pilots are retiring and they go on the reserve list, you know, you've got 200 pilots that flew older aircraft 10 years ago. So if you had them in storage or whatever, you've got the pilots. If there's a war going on, you can go, right, we'll get all these aircraft out of storage. We've got shed loads of pilots trained up. We're on a winner. We can do something. But if you get to the point where you've only got 60 aircraft, in 10 years' time, you know, you'll only have 60 pilots. And then out of them 60 pilots, you'll get a few of them that have medical conditions, car accidents, divorces. They'll commit suicide. You'll probably be down to like 50 pilots. What use is that to you? No use. So that's my quick rant on what is wrong with the UK's defence. Okay, cheers, bye.